Battles that are taking place in the modern world are increasingly taking place in the digital arena, with the intention of destroying essential infrastructure such as power grids, communication networks, and industrial systems. Examples from the real world, such as the attack on the electrical infrastructure in Ukraine in 2015 and the sabotage of Iran's nuclear reactor by the Stuxnet virus, highlight both the efficacy and the complexity of cyber warfare. Malware and automated call floods were employed in the attack on Ukraine, which resulted in power disruptions for 250,000 people. The attack was carried out by the Ukrainian government. During this time, the computer program known as Stuxnet, which is thought to have been a joint effort between the United States of America and Israel, as the character of society becomes more and more dependent on technology. There is a corresponding increase in the susceptibility of the society to cyber attacks, which creates significant challenges for the defense sector. The field of cybersecurity is having a hard time keeping up with the rapid multiplication of vulnerabilities. As a result, the battlefield is effectively transformed into a data-driven, multi-platform environment in which information functions as both a weapon and a target. The objective of this film is to study the revolutionary effect that technology has had on warfare, with a special focus on the ways in which networked networks and cyber technologies have redefined conflict in the 20th century. The film will be released in the United States. As the character of society becomes more and more dependent on technology, there is a corresponding increase in the susceptibility of the society to cyber attacks, which creates significant challenges for the defense sector. The field of cybersecurity is having a hard time keeping up with the rapid multiplication of vulnerabilities. This is because it is only necessary for attackers to exploit a single weakness in order to do widespread damage. Cyber warfare not only makes it possible to carry out acts of sabotage that have never been done before, but it also makes it possible to rapidly coordinate and alter military actions. As a result, the battlefield is effectively transformed into a data-driven, multi-platform environment in which information functions as both a weapon and a target. The objective of this film is to study the revolutionary effect that technology has had on warfare, with a special focus on the ways in which networked networks and cyber technologies have redefined conflict in the 20th century. The film will be released in the United States. The battles that are taking place in the modern world are increasingly taking place in the digital arena, with the intention of destroying essential infrastructure such as power grids, communication networks, and industrial systems. As a result, the battlefield is effectively transformed into a data-driven, multi-platform environment in which information functions as both a weapon and a target. The film explores the shifting landscape of warfare, shedding light on the ways in which traditional forms of conflict are becoming more closely associated with cyber warfare, which is causing the traditional boundaries of combat to become less distinct. Even while conventional domains like land, sea, and air continue to have a dominant position, the digital and space domains are becoming essential in modern military strategy. This is despite the fact that the land, sea, and air domains continue to hold a dominant position. As a consequence of this transition, it is clear that future conflicts will not be confined to cyberspace alone. Rather, they will also involve kinetic operations, economic measures, and information warfare, all of which will complement one another and work in conjunction with one another. In recent years, the perception of cyber warfare has moved from that of a discrete sort of conflict to that of an integrated component of a wider spectrum of combat. This transition has the impact of making military operations more difficult to carry out. Because of the vast potential of cyber warfare, which can range from espionage to the crippling of national infrastructure, it is difficult to develop the appropriate response and to determine whether or not an assault constitutes an act of war. This potential makes it difficult to determine whether or not an attack constitutes an act of war. It is the cyber attacks that took place in Estonia in 2007 that demonstrate the beginning of this new era. The digital infrastructure of a nation, which was important to the running of the nation, was able to be stopped as a result of these attacks during an event that was politically sensitive. As a consequence of the attack, which was associated with Russia, the government, financial, and media networks of Estonia were rendered unusable. However, the problem arose when attempting to ascertain who was responsible for the attack and what the intent was behind it. The development of non-state actors who are able to carry out cyber strikes without necessary physical presence further blurs the lines between accountability and response. These actors are able to carry out cyber strikes without being physically present. The situation is made much more difficult as a result of this. These attacks shed light on the instability of digital infrastructure, as well as the difficulties of defining legal and strategic borders in this new sort of warfare. Both of these issues are brought to light by the attacks. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, has taken action in response to the growing threat that it has identified. This action includes the establishment of a cyber warfare center of excellence and the contribution to the preparation of the Tallinn Manual, which is an attempt to explain how international law applies to cyber conflicts. When it comes to military operations, the security of cyberspace becomes just as vital as the protection of land, sea, and air. Cyberspace may be considered a fourth domain. This is due to the fact that it is becoming more and more reliant on networks all over the world. It is becoming more and more obvious that the integration of cyber capabilities will be the defining characteristic of the future of conventional combat. This is due to the fact that the digital and physical spheres will be interwoven, which will result in vulnerabilities and potential for disruption that have never been seen before. As a result of the utilization of actions that evade traditional definitions of war, the utilization of legal and ethical difficulties, and the erosion of sovereignty without resorting to direct violence, cyber warfare blurs the borders of conflict. Because of the rise of non-state actors and countries with limited traditional military might, the balance has shifted, making it possible for smaller organizations to inflict disproportionately huge amounts of damage on global powers. Not only will the future of warfare be determined by multi-vector attacks that target civilian, military, and critical infrastructure on an unimaginable scale, but the future of humanity's interconnectedness will also be determined by these attacks. As the state of technology continues to improve, this will take place. Thanks for watching and subscribing channel.